Mr. Elon Musk.
Yes!
Elon Musk, who runs the largest U.S. EV maker, Tesla, right now might be closer than anyone in the world to President Donald Trump.
We talk almost every day.
And President Trump has already taken steps to roll back the federal programs that support Tesla's main product. Some say that could be disastrous for the company.
There's no way you can spin this positive. It's a huge negative for Tesla.
He funds the rest of his empire through Tesla stock sales or Tesla borrowing against Tesla stock. Cut off your nose and spite your face doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's all about power for Elon.
On the other hand, Tesla has been moving into autonomous vehicles and robotics, new businesses that bullish investors say could double Tesla's market value.
You think another $1 trillion in market cap from here?
I think the golden goose is autonomous.
CNBC dives into the Trump administration's moves on EVs and how they could help or hurt America's largest EV maker and President Trump's right-hand man.
What's this one?
That's unleashing American energy, sir.
On January 20th, the Trump administration issued an executive order that took aim at a variety of green government policies. Many that have helped Tesla and continue to help it are on the chopping block. The order states the administration's aim to eliminate subsidies for EVs, prevent states from setting their own EV targets, and pause the disbursement of funds for EV charging stations, among other things. Trump's head of transportation, Sean Duffy, is also looking to roll back federal rules that limit vehicle emissions. There are, of course, questions as to how much Trump can do and how much Republicans are going to want to do. Some rules, like the EV tax credits for buyers, are in the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. Repealing those would take an act of Congress. But there are other means at the administration's disposal. Say you are a company that has an approved loan from the Department of Energy that hasn't been funded yet.
You're a small company that's relying on a DOE loan and they decide not to fund it. What's your recourse?
This comes, of course, after automakers have announced investments worth more than $200 billion in American EV and EV battery manufacturing over the past decade.
You're going to see a recalibration, for sure. I would be surprised if you'd see a total unwinding just because that would be detrimental to so many parts of the country, particularly districts that are represented by Republicans.
I think that some other CEOs sitting in China and other part of the world are sitting there and smiling because while here the uncertainty is slowing down changes and innovation, over there it's not. And by the time we will get our act together and figure out what's going on, they will take over the global market.
There are two ways to interpret how all this affects Tesla. Think of the first as the bear case. Some people we've talked to say this is ultimately bad for Tesla. Very bad. But some say it could help. Let me go through them each individually. EVs are eligible for a $7,500 tax credit under the Inflation Reduction Act, passed by Congress in 2022. The IRA credits were in fact a continuation of an earlier federal subsidy that was doled out under different criteria. The IRA rules place limitations on which vehicles are eligible for the credit, depending on the circumstances. They have to be assembled in America, and they have to be under a certain price point, among other things. There are ways around the rules. You can still get the credit if you lease rather than purchase an otherwise ineligible car. Elon Musk was reportedly not that fond of the subsidies and said on Twitter, now called X back in August 2024, take away the subsidies. It will only help Tesla. As of February 2025, at least one variant of every model Tesla sells is eligible, more than any other automaker. If Congress cuts the EV tax credits, Musk's prediction might prove true, at least in the short term. Tesla has the largest U.S. market share, but data indicates sales have dropped and rivals are encroaching on its territory.
Tesla's the only one making money. They can afford to incentivize sales and cut costs.
The only one in scale and scope that could profitably make a car at $30,000, $35,000
is Tesla. Gives them that much more of an advantage. That's why I've always viewed it. You pull the EV tax credits, negative for the industry for EVs, positive for Tesla's.
But over the long term, overall declining demand for EVs could be costly for Tesla as well. The current volatility the car maker is experiencing isn't helping either.
You think that you want to play some sort of long game and legacy OEMs will see what's going on in Washington and move away from EVs. That is bullish for Tesla to continue to dominate a small section of the market that's buying EVs. What would be more bullish for Tesla is if more people bought EVs. Right now, I think they're 9-10% of the market. If we got that number to 20-25%, Tesla, sure, they might lose market share, but that's a lot more units that Tesla will be selling.
Then there are the looming tariffs, especially on foreign-made vehicles and parts and on materials such as steel and aluminum. Tesla builds its US product locally, but its supply chain is still exposed, and other countries have threatened to retaliate against US-made Teslas. All EVs use a lot more aluminum and steel than gas-burning vehicles, so they are all especially vulnerable. Trump has also delayed the deployment of funds to the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, a Biden-era plan to build out more EV chargers. Tesla received about $31 million from that program, about 6% of all funds. The Tesla Supercharger network is by far the largest collection of DC fast chargers in the country in terms of total ports, though it is nearly tied with ChargePoint in terms of locations. ChargePoint also has a wider network of less powerful Level 2 chargers. But the appeal of the Supercharger network is evidenced by the fact that several automakers are making their vehicles compatible with Tesla's charging plugs.
In Biden administration, there was always the view that they were going to deliver massive charging infrastructure. Never happened. That's also why when you look at Detroit, GM, Ford, Stellantis, caught between rock and a hard place. But that's also why more and more the Supercharger, they've had to go to Tesla.
Then there are the automotive regulatory credits, which gave Tesla more than $2.7 billion in 2024 alone. Federal, and in some cases state rules require automakers to sell more efficient vehicles. At the federal level, there are the Corporate Average Fuel Economy Standards. These rules mandate that the average fuel efficiency of an entire automaker's fleet has to be above a certain number. You can sell gas guzzlers, but you have to offset those by selling more efficient fuel-burning cars, hybrids, or EVs. If you can't meet the standards, you have to buy credits from an automaker that does. The state of California also instituted its own zero-emission vehicle credit program, and several other states have adopted the same standards. These require companies to sell a certain number of zero-emission vehicles, 35% of total sales by 2026. These states are able to do this because they have waivers from the Environmental Protection Agency allowing them to set their own standards. Those are the waivers the Trump administration has taken aim at. Those federal CAFE standards are the ones U.S. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy has said he wants to reevaluate. Tesla benefits from both the federal CAFE credits and the ZEV credits.
Free money, and that they might lose, and that's more to the material detriment of Tesla's shareholders and profits than it is to the adoption of EVs.
The credits make up a small share of Tesla's total revenue. But as Gerber says, it essentially costs the company nothing. Tesla gets this money every time it sells an EV. Unlike legacy automakers, it doesn't have to use its credits to offset the sale of ICE vehicles.
Our analysis suggests over the life of Tesla, if you take out these EV credits, their free cash flow is actually negative. All of their free cash flow has come from selling these credits.
It's less of an impact today than call it 3-4 years ago. If this happened 3-4 years ago, it would have been a game changer. But Tesla's in a different situation today. But also it's like that's why the whole focus of the company is the autonomous and robotics along with Optimus.
Welcome to the We Robot Party.
I think like the bigger prize for Tesla is like this pathway towards the regulatory backdrop for unsupervised full self-driving, and then how that kind of fuels the robotaxi initiative.
That is, the real future of Tesla lies in the kinds of products it demoed at its Robotaxi Day in October 2024.
We've never viewed Tesla as an automobile company. And when you look going forward, we believe 20% of cars on the road end of the decade are going to be autonomous. And I think Tesla, the biggest thing in its way was regulatory. And in a Trump administration, it massively changes the regulatory environment for autonomous vehicles.
Stephen Gengaro is bullish on Tesla. He has a $474 target price on Tesla shares. If it just had the EVs and energy storage business, shares would be worth $136, he says. So, the upside is Optimus robots, autonomous driving technology, robotaxis. A combination of what they expect those to be worth accounts for the rest of the value of the share.
But when we do that, it is reliant on their ability to get unsupervised full self-driving going, right? Because the unsupervised full self-driving is kind of a key piece, not only for people like us to use it for commuting, but it unlocks the massive robo-taxi opportunity. Tesla full self-driving vehicle, assuming they can accomplish it with the existing technology.
Longtime Tesla investor Gerber thinks that is far-fetched.
I don't see where Tesla goes from here because the fact is autonomy doesn't work, still doesn't work. I literally take my Cybertruck, I can't drive 5 minutes without having to disengage. And then the Waymos are just like driving around me like crazy. And I'm like, we're just not there. And I don't think the hardware is going to get us there.
Automakers in the US, as in most countries, have to comply with reams of safety regulations that are made and enforced by federal agencies, such as the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Tesla has been investigated a number of times for crashes involving its driver assistance technology, which goes under the names autopilot and full self-driving, or FSD. The Justice Department has investigated whether Tesla's marketing of its systems has defrauded customers since at least late 2022. CNBC reached out to NHTSA for clarification. The administration referred us to a database which lists 5 open investigations and 10 closed ones. Among them are cases involving autopilot and what is now called full self-driving supervised. We also reached out to the Department of Justice for an update on its probe. However, the agency did not respond. Tesla did not respond to CNBC's request for an interview or comment.
Elon Musk is the world's greatest salesman. Since 2015, he's promised, your car is going to be able to drive itself unsupervised without your hands on the wheel. We're now in 2025. He sold that promise to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars and gotten people to invest in his company to the tunes of billions of dollars. And that's what some of these investigations were focused on. So I believe the reason why Musk went full MAGA was because the end of the road was nearing, and he knew if Trump won, basically he would be immune from any responsibility.
Others argue the benefit is more about shaping policy going forward.
The regulatory backdrop has been foggy at best and evolving. And I think Musk's involvement in the administration, we think probably makes the regulatory path to approvals, et cetera, a little bit easier.
Each state determines what happens on each state's roads. This idea that him being in government and the federal government has somehow going to help him, for example, in the state of California get approval, it's going to have no effect at all. In fact, what's going to matter is actual public perception of the safety.
A big part of this is assessing the value of new businesses, like consumer robots.
If we want to have a real conversation about the stock, we need to know from a institutional investor fundamental perspective, what do people think about how many robots they're going to sell, at what price, at what margin in 2030?
In the meantime, investors like Gerber fear Musk's involvement has created serious public image problems for Tesla. Its stock has plunged 32% in 2025, and its market cap has fallen below $1 trillion. Owners are angry too. Stores have been vandalized.
He is a very political figure right now, and everything he is doing is directly connected to the cars he's selling. It's one-to-one. If Ford or someone else will say something, people will not change their mind about their cars that fast.
Elon is probably the most hated person in the world. They're taking it out is on Tesla, and it's a really unfortunate thing.
Data backs up Gerber's concern. Democrats, who historically are far more likely to buy EVs than Republicans, are less likely to consider a Tesla than ever before. However, that trend has flipped for Republicans.
We get asked, is Elon Musk's attention too spread out to focus on Tesla? My answer is always like, given that he knows that Tesla and its success is going to be linked to Elon Musk forever, he's going to make sure, to the best of his power, that Tesla is successful. I don't worry about him.
The problem is that when you start alienating core customers of Tesla, that becomes a problem. You gotta be careful because the eye on the prize is the brand autonomous robot. They are sitting in a phenomenal position, but it's gonna be a balancing act with some of the brand issues.